Howdy, future teachers! Before we begin with our session, allow me to discuss with you our e-classroom rules for this new semester. Since we are in the new normal, our rules will be exactly just that. N. N stands for no distractions. Make sure you are situated in a place with no background noises. You could stay in your room or ask your housemates to give you at least 1.5 hours of peace and quiet as we go about our class. Avoid checking your social media accounts for the time being or answering texts or calls. E is for engage yourself in the discussions. Even though we are not inside the classroom, we are still going to practice careful listening and academic conversations in every session. W stands for wait for your turn to speak. Since you will be muted upon entry to our virtual classroom, wait for your teacher to acknowledge you or ask you to speak. Until then, remember that silence is golden. N is for no inappropriate use of language and hand gestures. We are still in an academic setting after all, so let's not allow street speak and dirty fingers anywhere near our session. O is for observe proper attire. You are not required to wear your school uniforms during our sessions, but you are obligated to wear something, especially if you will keep your video camera on. No nudes, tubes, and spaghettis, future teachers. R stands for raise hand button if we are using Zoom, and chat for Google Meet if you wish to ask or share something in class. Once more, wait for me, your teacher, to acknowledge you. M is for maintain respectful and peaceful atmosphere, which I believe is very self-explanatory. A is for avoid getting late during online meetings. Two of our core values are professionalism and discipline, so let's begin showcasing those in our virtual classes. Finally, L. It's for learning is sharing of materials, not answers. Adhere to the principle of academic honesty, especially now that I am not around. Do your best to work alone, but if you need help, ask only for resources, materials, and references from your teacher or classmates, and not their answers. So there you have it, folks. Leave the new normal reminders every time you have our online session. I would like to acknowledge, of course, the creator of this creative mnemonics, Miss Hazel A. Vitalicio of 4th year BSc English. Thank you, dear. Let's observe and face together both the rules and the reality that is the new normal. Happy e-learning! Can everyone hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Good
ma'am.
morning, ma'am.
Hi! Sorry for the long wait. Ano po, I'm trying to fix my audio on this end, but thank you for being online as early as 8 o'clock. Ano po, your classmates can still join us. I'm still allowing and admitting your classmates will be late. I do understand why we can't always come on time. Ano? So we'll just admit them whenever they pop in. So for now, Sai, I messaged you. You did not reply. I asked Sai if she can lead us into prayer. Is that a yes? You can unmute your mic. I will unmute you. Would it be okay, Sai, so that we begin with the prayer? Parang ayaw ni Sai. Sai, unmute yourself. I'm asking you to unmute. Okay, gusto daw ni Sai. Sige, it's okay. Let's dispose ourselves into prayer. Sai, whenever you're ready.
Okay, ma'am. In the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, thank you for this day. We hope that today we gathered information and we have cooperation and understanding, even if this is our first time in new normal class. I hope that we all learn and bless you every day. Thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord.
In the name of the Father, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Good morning!
Morning, ma'am.
Good
Morning,
morning.
ma'am.
Okay,
Morning,
hello. Sige po. Thank you very much, Cyril, for doing the honors of leading us into prayer. Later, Norily, ikaw naman, lead us into the closing prayer. Ano po, para makaprepare si Norily. Kasi parang
Yes,
nag-class
ma'am.
si Sai. Thank you, Norily. Okay, so we'll begin. Ano po, welcome once again to English 118. This is supposed to be our first meeting, but I met with you last week due to some typographical errors in our schedule. I hope you do understand. Ano po? But this one, ano po, this is actually a required session for us to meet online. So, yesterday when I announced about this meeting, I told you that you should refresh your minds about communication, context, and its elements. Did you do that? Nod if you did. No one is nodding. Okay, Sai did and Benzar did. Okay. Sige, I'll trust that you can easily answer this one. Ano po, this is supposed to be part of the pre-competency assessment, but since the VLP is down, I cannot show you the test, but you can just take it. Anyway, we'll just have a review, okay, using my previous PowerPoint presentation in other subject. It has something to do with the 5 macro skills of language. This is just a review. Do tell me in the chat box if you can see already the presentation. Can you see it yet? Chat away.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. Sige, we'll do a little recap, okay? This was, okay, EL 104, nakita niyo na. This was my presentation in my other subject. It's also a major subject for English major students. Nevertheless, it has the same content, so let's recap so that when you enter the VLP, you can easily answer the pre-competency checklist. So there are 5 macro skills of language. Now, before I tell you what those 5 are, here's a challenge. Using your pen and paper nearby, or if you're using your laptop, you can just open a Microsoft Word. Try to order the following language macro skills in order, okay? Order them in the way that you learned them since childhood. Which macro skill, apat muna, which macro skill did we learn first? And then second, and then third, and then the last of the 4 macro skills. I'm giving you, I think 3 minutes is enough. Okay, 3 minutes to try and order these 4 macro skills. Later, I'll ask you to unmute some of you and then share your answer. With explanation, of course, okay? Again, sequence the following skills according to the order that you learned them. Okay? I think we're good. Let's see. Ano po? May I ask Benzar to please unmute his mic, Mr. Oko, and share to us what you have written. Mr. Oko, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Could you share what you've written?
I don't know if this is correct.
It's okay. It's just a refresher.
I think I learned first how to write
Uh-huh.
because I can still remember during my childhood years, my mama let me write something just like my name.
Okay.
Then to read, I think to read
All right.
Then to speak,
Okay. So you're writing before
I
you
think
speak.
I think speak with to speak with sense.
Ah, I see. And then?
Okay, next is to listen comprehensively. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ojo, for sharing your answer. So according to him, he first learned how to write, then read, then speak, and then listen. Why don't we listen to another answer? Okay, how about you? Kindly unmute your mic. I hope you're fine with this one. I'm sorry if I'm not using your raise hand button, huh? Okay, Chris Ann, why don't you share with us what you have accomplished? Yes, Chris, unmute please.
Okay. Good morning, ma'am.
Morning.
First, I learned listening.
Okay.
I learned how to listen to my environment.
All right.
The sounds first, of course, and then second is speaking. And
Speaking. Okay.
I was a child. I was copying the. I was copying what my mama.
The saying.
Yes, say. Then next is reading.
All right.
Then lastly, writing, ma'am.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing to us what you've answered. So, according to Miss Alarve, she learned first to listen, and then to speak, and then to read, and then finally to write. Now, for the last sharer, for just for this ano po, exercise, why don't you share to us your answer? Yes. Emmy. Yes, Emmy. Miss Cabrera, are you there?
Hello po.
Hi. Okay. What did you answer?
Actually, I didn't write it, ma'am, because I forgot to bring my ball pen.
It's okay. Mental note.
Yes po. For me, I've learned first listening
Okay.
because um, listening has something to do with our senses, and since we were born, we will learn how to hear things. And listening is the first thing I learned because even if we're kids, we know how to. I mean, I knew how to uh, follow directions and instructions from my parents. And next is speaking,
All right.
um, because I I learned how to express myself and um, reason myself and speak my mind. Next is writing because during elementary I started um, writing, loving writing. And lastly is reading.
All right. Okay. The
That's
last
it.
is reading. Thank you very much, Emmy. Now for Emmy, she's a little different on the far end. Ano po? So listening and speaking. Same with, of course, your previous classmates who answered. But in her case, she learned first how to write before she learned how to read. Okay, sige. Now let's see the verdict. Ano po? Technically, generally speaking, this is how we learn. Okay, kindly take a look at your answers in order. Ano po? So, before we were born, even inside our mother's womb, we already listen. That's the reason why babies can recognize, okay, yung mga infants, they can easily recognize whose voice, what's the voice of their mom sound like, ano po, or sounds like rather. So, because we listen with our surroundings, we tend to mimic them. Okay, one of your classmates is right. Ano po, I tend ngayon to mimic or copy the sounds, okay, in my environment, in the surroundings. And then, um, maybe you are going to contest this one a little bit. Yes, do we have questions?
Okay. Alright, sige, okay. Maybe some of you will contest this one a little bit, but we've learned first how to read before we learned how to write. No, ma'am, I can specifically recall ngayon, ma'am. Pinapasurat na po ngayon ako. Letter A. A is for apple, blah, blah, blah. But before we could actually jot down that character na letter A, we've been told what it sounds like. Ano po? And we've been saying it through reading of, okay, how to write said character. So hence, the order in which we learn pala, okay, generally, all individuals, listening, speaking, reading, and writing. But I told you this is a review of 5 macro skills. Now, what is missing? Can anybody tell me what is missing here? You may unmute your mic.
Viewing, ma'am.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you very much. I think that was Mike. Okay, so our 5th macro skill is viewing. This is relatively new as a category for language macro skills. However, we've learned how to view ever since we were kids also. Okay, almost at the same time that we learned all these macro skills. Now, the question is, okay, eto muna, ano po, i-add natin yung viewing maya-maya. These macro skills can actually either be receptive or productive. From the words itself, or themselves rather, when we say receptive, these are the skills that allow us to receive language. Okay? We accept, we try to decode language. Okay? Which of these skills do you think are receptive? And then, next classification are productive skills. Which among these skills naman are or make us or enable us to produce or create language? Ano po? Mamaya, I'll include viewing. But for now, let's divide what you've ordered so far. Okay, let's divide this 4 into receptive and productive skills. Okay, this time I'm only giving you 1 minute, I think. Okay, which skills help make you receive language? Which skills make you create language? Your 1 minute starts right now. Okay, why don't we try? Okay, why don't we try and listen to the answer of Eddie? Eddie, I'm going to ask you to unmute your mic, okay? Share to us your answer. Which do you think belong to receptive? Which one is in the productive? Eddie, can you unmute your mic? Is Eddie there? Parang di ako naririnig ni Eddie. Okay. Sige, we'll get back to Eddie. Ano po, I think there's a problem. Okay, anybody who would like to raise their hands? Ma'am, ako po. I can classify them into productive or receptive. Anyone who wish to volunteer? Wala? Sige, I'll call. Okay, let's go. Ay, who's that? Who's
Yes.
that?
Ma'am,
Kindly
Kylie.
raise your hand. Okay, let's go, Miss Marcelenia. Okay, classify.
Yes, ma'am, for me is listening and reading is the receptive, wherein you were just listen about what they are saying, and while reading you are just reading some text while unpacking all those information. So
Okay.
that's why it is receptive. While in the productive is speaking and writing. So this time speaking, you are able to speak out what you have learned and what you have listened from the source of information. And writing, you will this time you will you have the skill to write or to express your thoughts or your information gathered. That's all, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much, Cyril. Fantastic answer. Do we have a different answer from the group? May you raise your hand? Ma'am, magkaiba ba? According to Sai, her receptive skills, she believes, are listening and reading. Ano po? And then, the productive skills for her are writing and speaking. Do we have a different answer? Wala. Kaway-kaway. Raise your hand. Please click the hand button if you have a different answer. I see no one. Okay, let's see the verdict. Let's see. Okay, so Cyril is right, and hopefully everyone is right also. So, ganito siya. The 4 macro skills are divided into receptive and productive. Again, when we say receptive, these are the skills that allow us to receive or decode language. Ano po? And listening, just like what you're doing right now, you are receiving inputs from the oral communication that I am doing. And then reading, you are reading on this slide, I'm assuming. Okay, that you're also receiving a written language. Ano po? On the other hand, the productive skills are speaking and writing. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm speaking. I'm producing language through verbally oral communication. Ano po? And when I write this lesson down or even encode it in the computer, I am still producing a language. Ano po? For somebody else to decode. So productive allows us to encode or produce or create language. I hope everybody got this right and you were able to refresh yourselves with the 4 macro skills. Balik ulit tayo sa viewing. Okay? Where do you think, okay, this viewing belong? Okay, not only in the order by which we learned it, but also into the division of the macro skills. Is viewing receptive skill or is viewing a productive skill? This one, 30, okay, so we already have someone who would like to answer. Yes, Miss Vitalicia?
Ma'am, I think ma'am viewing is included in the receptive area because in viewing we are just like receiving information through the things that we watch or we see.
Yan.
That's all.
Okay, fantastic answer, Miss Hazel. I hope everyone agrees. Kasi po, viewing is also a form of receptive skill. Ano po? So according to Hazel, unlike listening that we decode yung oral na language or in reading the written language, in viewing skill, we actually decode the visual, okay? Yung non-verbal, okay? Non-verbal language. So here's a little refresher. I'm just gonna click. Ano po, kasi our focus really is speaking. But just to give you again, what do you call this one? Just to give you again an overview of these macro skills, ano po, allow me to show you what I have in the slides. Okay, you can just go over them, read with your eyes. Okay, right now you are reading. Okay. Later on, I'll have several questions, but for now, practice your reading skills. Okay. All right, let's jump. This one actually is supposed to be taught in your other subject. Nevertheless, I hope you were able to pass this through. Okay, next. This one, although this is not what our course is about, we call, right now you are reading. Okay. This is what you're supposed to teach. If you will land teaching in elementary, you are going to teach them how to learn to read. But if you're in high school, you ought to teach them how to read in order to learn. And this one is for the viewing. Relatively new, but still. Okay. So these are your receptive skills. Now we're going to proceed to the productive skills where our course, okay, teaching of speaking falls under. So we have this one, okay? Speaking is the delivery of language through the mouth, okay? We create sounds using many parts of our body, including the lungs, vocal tract, vocal cords, tongue, teeth, and lips. Ano po? So it's oral language or oral communication. So we are going to tackle this one on the coming chapters. But for now, I'd like you to have this mental picture somewhere in your long-term memory. Kasi po, this is what you are going through as you speak. And I'd like you to remember that this is also what your future students will go through as they try to speak the English language, okay? Do not only remember the methodologies, but remember also the processes that your future students are undergoing. Ano po? So we will leave it at that. We'll discuss that further. Okay, and then for writing, although again, this is not part of our discussion, allow me to just show you. All right, I think this belongs to another major subject. All right, okay, so there you have it. Zell, you're raising your hand. Yes, Zell?
I'm not, ma'am.
You're not. Okay, sorry. Ano to? Ibaba ko na. Ito siguro yung kanina. Alright, so naka-review tayo. Going back to the question, ano po, na-miss natin yung viewing. The first question I raised is the order by which we learn them. Although we understand that viewing is relatively new, I told you before that it has been learned. Okay, we learned this one almost at the same time with the 4 other skills. Now, if we're going to insert viewing somewhere on the sequence in which we learn viewing, where will we put it? So, originally, sabi natin kanina, we listen, we speak, we read, and then we write. Where should we put viewing? Okay? Recall again, if you have nieces or nephews or kids, okay, when do they view? When do they watch visual images?
At the first place ata.
Okay, yes, Lance. Let's go, Lance. When do you think, Lance?
On the first one, ma'am.
The first. It's the first skill now. It dethroned listening.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, why is that, Lance?
Based on my experience in my cousin or nephew, they see colors or light colors during their infants.
Yeah. Yes, Lance, you are right. Okay. They see bright colors during infancy. They can easily recognize. Or although, correct me mga momshies, yung mga mommy po. Correct me if I'm wrong. But there are also weeks, I think, to months, wherein babies or infants couldn't see just yet. Tama ba? Medyo bulag pa sila. Parang yung sabi sa
Yes,
akin.
ma'am.
Yes, okay. Thank you for correcting. So, medyo bulag pa sila. So, technically, I told you, listening, we've learned it even in our mother's womb. That's why some pregnant women listen to classical music, okay, or read out loud so that their babies could recognize their voice. And then the daddies do talk to their babies inside the wife's tummy, okay, because listening is actually the first. But Lance is right into saying that even before we could make sense, okay, of what we are watching, of what we are viewing, even before our kids learn who Peppa Pig is, or who Ava, ano ba yun? Sino ba yung mga sikat sa YouTube na pinapanood? Even before that, they can actually view. Okay?
Cocomelon.
Yan, Cocomelon na yan. Okay, yeah. They can actually view, or they've been trying to make sense since the time that they started seeing. Okay? They've been trying to develop their viewing comprehension. Even before they could gugu, dada, mama, papa. Even before they could try to speak. So if we're going to insert viewing skill, which is a receptive skill, okay, within the order by which we learn them, we say, wag natin ipatalo yung listening. Unless, of course, I'm not talking about yung may mga birth defects, okay? So we're not being insensitive here, but generally speaking lang. So we learn to listen, eventually to view, okay? And then we copy, we mimic, okay? Speaking, and then eventually to read, and then to write. Okay, so enough with that already. I think we've gone through the review session. Okay, do we have any questions before we proceed now to the main agenda? None? Okay, you can always raise your hand or go to the chat box and ask question. Okay, so here's a brief introduction. Kasi speaking tayo, ano nga ulit ang speaking? Productive skill. Okay, so this is what I'd like you to know when you teach speaking. My dear future English teachers, language is primarily speech. Okay, language is primarily speaking. Okay, human beings talked and listen. We cannot talk if we did not listen to the surrounding sounds. Ages before there was anything for them to read or write. As a result, it should be established that language is learned by speaking it first after a lot of listening to the surrounding sounds, words, phrases, and sentences. If I may add, after a lot of viewing, because we keep on naming things also. Now, as future English teachers, you are expected to use English as a global and local language in multilingual contexts as it applies to the teaching of language and literature. You are not just going to teach them how to speak, okay, or how to use the language, proper grammar, etc. You're also going to teach them literature. So, you ought to demonstrate proficiency in oral communication and show competence in employing innovative language teaching approaches. Dapat matatas magsalita ang English teacher. Okay? Now, no pressure. Wait lang, one person is waiting. Sorry. Yun. Okay. Before you reach said level of oral competence, along ngayon, mom, dahil pa ngayon, bako pang English ko. Don't worry, it's a process, okay? You must first demonstrate a sound understanding of the nature of speaking. This is what this unit is about. We are not going to proceed immediately to the methodology unless we lay a solid foundation on what to expect when we teach speaking. So this week's discussion shall help you with that as it commences now with the basic elements of communication and the context by which we speak. Thus, it will be expected of you to be able to explain the nature of oral communication and discuss how these elements and contexts affect speaking. So later on, I'll be giving you a task. Let's see how orally competent you are right now. Okay, right now at the start of this course. And then before we end this semester, same task lang, but we are going to compare your improvement. Ano po? Kasi it's not only me who will keep on talking throughout the semester, it will be you. Okay? You will be pre-assessed. I've already pre-assessed you. And then there will be total physical response activities like simulations, ano po, and video presentations to reflect your comprehension of the different learning materials provided. Now, on to the first topic. So our objective, you ought to know the nature of speaking. I'm going to show you this one. Okay. Kindly tell me. This is actually the module which will be printed for those who opted for modular. Can you see it yet? I'll make it bigger. This one. I'm assuming you can. Walang nagre-reklamo. Okay. So, eto po. Yes, thank you. Speech is the best introduction to other language learning skills. Okay? It is through speaking that we learn language in a natural way since, eto po, etong kagandahan dito. It provides the opportunity for practical usage. Okay? Although most of the language skills do, but this is the most obvious one. Speaking falls under, okay, dito tayo, the very nature of communication. Okay, the verbal oral mode of communication. Now, most students actually get confused when we say verbal. They think that since it's verbal, automatically, it's oral already. Ano po, out loud. Kasi nga yeah, verbal. But that's not necessarily the case with communication. Verbal came from the Latin word verbo, which means word. Ano po? So that means, even though we are not orally speaking, okay, even if we are just writing, that is still a verbal mode of communication. Why is that? Because we are using words. Okay? I hope that's clear for everyone. So, hindi porket, okay, answer verbally, not automatically orally na. Okay? I can ask you to answer verbally, but you have to write it down. As long as you use words, okay, that's actually a verbal mode of communication, as opposed to non-verbal, okay? Non-verbal does not use words, but it uses visual images, just like gestures, okay? When you grimace your face, when you frown, okay, that's a non-verbal communication, even without the use of word. When you stomp your feet, you are already communicating something even without the use of word. Are we clear on these modes? Yes, ma'am. Okay, I'll answer for you. Yes, ma'am, we're clear. All right. And then, furthermore, okay, it's verbal oral, but the best way to teach you speaking is to include also non-verbal. That's why later on in the techniques, we are also going to employ strategies wherein the students can use their body language and gestures in order to speak effectively the language. Okay? Dito naman tayo. Ito medyo, I think you've undergone this one in your other subjects. Okay, purpose and style of communication. Okay? Purpose, ito siya. Tandaan lang, PI. Okay? What is a PI? It's persuade, inform, and entertain. These are the general reasons why we communicate. To convince someone, to let them know something, or to keep them amused. Ano po? And the style, it depends on the kind of language that you've used. Formal language, okay? Or the informal or casual language. It depends on the zone. Okay? Now, I hope medyo clear ito. This is just the very nature of what communication is. So, now that you've learned about the modes and the purposes and the styles of communication, can anybody define to me what communication is in the first place? Communication? I'll call somebody. Sige, let's see. Kasi this is what you're going to teach. Ano po? So what is communication? Right now we are communicating. May I ask for your insight, Jeric, Mr. Lopez?
Yes, good morning.
Hi.
So communication is a way of transferring information through the word of mouth or through written form.
Or through visual? Okay, that's it? Yes. Okay, wonderful, Mr. Lopez. That is correct. Okay, so according to Mr. Lopez, communication is the transferring, am I right, of information, either through written or oral. Let's also not forget visual. Ano po? So, let's just keep it general. So, it's a verbal or non-verbal transfer of information. Ano? Wonderful. Mr. Lopez, any other idea? Any other idea? Why don't we try? Jo, are you there? Miss Olivan? Wala yata si Jo. Jo?
Oh, ma'am.
Yes. Okay.
Ma'am.
Apo. Okay. Wait lang, Jo. Okay. Jo, I'm gonna ask you to chat your answer in the chat box for everyone to read. Medyo ano kasi yung ating signal. Ano, medyo may...
Hindi ko, ma'am, kanina maintindihan, ma'am.
I see. Okay, sige. It's okay, Jo. You can just chat your answer if you wish to share it. I do understand. Ano po? So, I think Jo is in agreement also with Mr. Lopez. Ano po? Communication is just the expression of our ideas and thoughts. Ano po? And it can either be formal or informal, verbal or non-verbal, for the purpose of persuading, informing, or entertaining an individual. Sa mga nahihirapan at maang signal, don't worry, it's recorded. I can just give you a copy kung sakaling hindi malinaw yung explanation ni ma'am. Kasi kung nagbabuffer. Okay. So, for now, okay, proceed na tayo to the elements of communication. I'd like you to notice that there are 7 elements in here. But on the video, which I will be sharing with you, sana medyo maintindihan yung video kasi baka yung iba nagda-data lang. What I'd like you to notice is which one goes missing from these 7 elements that I have given? Ano po? Alin yung nawawala? And then, which ones are added? Okay? Based from the video. You can use your pen and paper or your own laptops or mobile phones in taking down some notes. May I repeat? Watch carefully the video, which I'm about to show you. Check which one is missing and check what are those added. Okay? Let me stop sharing this for now. All right. Yes? Blurry po, ma'am. Ay nako.
Blurry nga po, ma'am.
Oh my God. Baka
Can you read the 7 what do you call it?
okay, the
For
7.
us, ma'am, because we didn't see it. We didn't have the honor to
Thank
read it.
you. Okay. Thank you po for pointing that out. The 7 elements of communication I have here are context or environment. Second, channel or medium. Third, message. Fourth, sender. Fifth, receiver. Sixth, barrier or noise. And the 7th is feedback or response. I repeat, context, channel, message, sender, receiver, barrier, and feedback. Okay, these are 7. But on the video, let's see what is the difference. Kindly tell me if the video can already be seen or not. Wait up. Can you see the YouTube page?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll be playing the video. Sana makisama. Let's go.
Today we're going to talk about the communication cycle, specifically the 8 different components that make it up. Sure, you may not have heard of the communication cycle before, but some of these components are going to seem pretty familiar. To begin, we always start with the sender, who has some kind of idea that he is trying to get to a receiver. So that begs the question, how does an idea get from the sender to the receiver? Well, that idea represents the 3rd component in the communication cycle, and that is the message, the idea being communicated. And for our sender here, well, he has a very specific idea in mind. He is in love, and he can't wait to communicate it. So now we arrive at our 4th component, which is the encoding phase. To encode is simply to package the message, and you really only have 3 different options. They are either verbal, nonverbal, or both. Our sender has decided that a love letter would be the best way to encode his message. This brings us to our 5th component, and that is the channel, which is simply defined as how the receiver takes in the message. Human beings have 5 channels. Think, what else do you have 5 of? If you guessed your 5 senses, you'd be right. Hearing, seeing, and feeling are the primary ways in which human beings take in information. And in this case, if it's a love letter, she will be using sight. Having taken in this message, she now needs to make sense of it. And another word for that is our next component, and that is to decode it. So if encoding is packaging your message, decoding is making sense of it. So, she's unpackaged the message. Now all we do is wait for her response. What do you think? Will she be into him? Okay, it looks like she is. And that response that she's giving right there, that's our next component. And that is the feedback loop. Any response the receiver gives to the sender. So there you have it, one effective cycle of communication. But wait, we're forgetting our final element, and that is noise, which is simply defined as anything complicating a message being sent or received. So if our sender has bad handwriting, our receiver can no longer decode his message. This, of course, alters her response, and therein changes the feedback. So in the end, it seems miscommunication is just as much a part of this cycle. Thanks for watching.
All right. Excuse me. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing the video for now, and then we're going to go back to the question I raised before I play the video. So number one, I'd like you to notice which of the 7 elements. Thank you, Diana, for sending it on the chat. Thank you po. Okay, which of the 7 elements are missing from the video? And then the second question is, what are the 2 additional elements? Okay, that you have seen from the video. Anybody would like to volunteer, or shall I call another?
Ma'am,
Okay, let's go, Rochelle.
encode and decode po, ma'am.
What are
The encode and decode po.
okay. Are they the ones added?
Yes po.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much, Miss Rabi. So we have a process within the elements of the communication. When we say element kasi, these are parts or components. But the idea behind the video is to include the process also within the process of communication. So decoding, okay? Ano nga ulit yung decoding according to the video? It is the
Packaging the message, ma'am.
wonderful, Miss Rabi. It's an packaging, decode, okay? While encoding, it's packaging the message.
Packaging.
Wonderful, Mike. Okay, so the sender encodes the message for the receiver to decode the message. Now, he added 2 processes inside the process of communication, and that is correct. But which one did he leave missing? Alin yung nawala of the 7 elements?
Environment.
Yes, that is right. Okay, nawala po ma'am yung environment, the context in which communication happens. Ano po? We have a separate discussion for environment kasi this is actually a very large element within the communication process. The environment can either make or break, okay, the process of communication. The noise will depend on the environment. Okay? Ma'am, barrier ang pwedeng makaraot sa communication. But the noise or the barrier is present within the environment. Same with the speaker or the sender and the receiver. Ano po, or your listener. Okay? That goes for everyone. Every other elements also. Now, again, using your piece of paper, ito po, you'll be uploading this one. I don't care how ugly or how beautiful your drawing will be. But I would like you to draw, okay, viewing na kayo and then may a bit of writing. I would like you to draw, literally, illustrate, okay, the interconnectedness of these 7 elements, okay? There was an arrow, cycle lang siya. Ano po, cycle baga siya, yung nandun sa YouTube video. But I'd like you to tell me, using a mental image, how do you see the communication process where all the 7 elements are present? Ayo po. Pwede niyong i-parenthesis yung decoding and encoding. But I want all these 7 elements, context, channel, message, sender, receiver, barrier, and feedback, to be interacting in your mental notes. Don't worry, you are not going to show this today. Ano po? But once I've enrolled you in the VLP, okay, you can upload it in there. Ano po? Or din sa mga magmo-module, you have a space for you to write said mental picture. But for now, habang fresh pa, okay, habang fresh pa, there are 7 elements of communication and try to draw their interconnectedness. Include now context or environment. I think I'll give you a breather to do that. Yung iihi po, ihi na. Yung magi-snack, kain na. Pero you can start drawing. And then we'll proceed to the next chapter. Please tell me if we're going too fast. Okay.
Hi, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am.
Hi, Aman. Yes po.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I wasn't able to hear the first instruction regarding with the things that we need to do.
It's okay.
Since I'm getting a higher peak here in my end.
I see. Okay. Is it okay if I write the instruction na lang, Tito? I'll chat the instruction. Ano po? And for those who just got in, don't worry, it's being recorded. I can just send you a file copy in your emails. Ano po? Of the... Yes, Aman?
Ma'am, can I just have a copy in my email so that
Yeah.
I can
Okay.
where I'm so that I can have a basis on what I'm doing to do.
Okay po. No problem. Okay? I'll do that. So, for the rest of you, take your time for your mental image. Nahiya kasi ako mag-upload sa YouTube. Baka may makakita na hindi ko
Thank you so
estudyante.
much, ma'am.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay. Nakahinga na siguro? Alright. Okay. So, once more, ano po, I don't mind, okay, if it's so beautiful or if it's so ugly. What I mind is the interconnectedness of those 7 elements or components of communication. All right. Ito, to end our discussion with the components, may I ask, can communication happen if one, kahit isa lang, if one of those 7 elements go missing? May I repeat, ano? Can communication take place if even just one tiny element of communication goes missing? Yes or no? Why or why not? Who wants to
I
answer?
think it's a no.
Okay,
I
this
think
is
it's a
Zel
no.
and Benzar. Okay, let's start with Zel. Why not?
Because these 7 components are the elements of communication, meaning there are the things that composes the process. So if ever one is missing, then the communication cannot be what do you call it? Cannot
Can
be
be
done, or if
successful.
yes po, if one of the elements are missing, then the communication process will no longer be a success.
Okay, that's true. Okay, so ma'am, communication cannot happen if only one goes missing because they are part. Okay, they are what compose communication. Benzar, do you want to add something?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Communication will never take place if one is missing because from the very beginning, the meaning of communication is the transfer of information, and once one element is missing, I think it is impossible for us to communicate with someone.
Okay, it will be impossible for us to communicate with someone if only one element goes missing. Okay, thank you. I want to be a devil's advocate, but what if barrier or noise goes missing?
It's okay, ma'am.
It's okay. So communication can happen.
Yes.
Is that right? So
For
pwedeng may
me,
mawala. Okay, Ras? Yes, Ras?
um, for me, ma'am, barrier can be disregarded, especially today, 21st century, where devices and a lot of ways to send your message. I think uh, we don't have that much barrier today, especially today, these days.
Wow, what a
That's my
perfect world
on my
then.
own idea, ma'am.
Yes, Ras. Okay, wonderful. Thank
Sorry.
you. I see Gladys, Miss Gairanan, raising her hand. Gladys? Ha? Hi. Oh, sino?
Ma'am.
Si Lance yan, si Gladys.
Ako po.
Ah,
Ata.
ikaw ba yan? May nag-raise
Ako
si
po ata.
Gladys. Okay. Sige, Lance. I thought may bago akong estudyante. Okay. Sige,
Ma'am,
Lance.
noise cannot be disregarded, ma'am, because what we refer for noise is not about only the physical noise or the noise from the environment, but we also consider the noise inside ours.
Yes. Okay. This is a very good answer, Lance. Ano po? Sige, thank you. Thank you both of you. In a perfect environment where it's impossible to have barrier or noise ngayon within the oral communication tayo, ano, kasi speaking, lahat nakikinig, okay, no one is noisy, okay, paying attention, there are other kinds of barriers or noises that could take place, especially depending on the environment. Right now, probably you think, ay, walang noise kasi okay ang Wi-Fi connection ko. I can clearly hear ngayon, madam. But inside you, maybe you're hungry, okay? Maybe it's so hot in your room. Maybe you are worried about something. Si Aki Kusay na doon nagbabantay. Okay? Those are internal noises, psychological barriers that might impede or affect the way we receive the message. Ano po? So even though it's a flawless, okay? Para ngayang focus ako sa pakikinig. Even though it's a flawless context or environment, just like what Lance has said, okay, there are some internal noises that we cannot totally shut out, okay? Halimbawa, suya ka sa nagtataram, mantala, di ka man gutom, bako man mainit, but you feel so annoyed with the one who's speaking, then that can still affect communication. It's still part of the communication. Going back to my question, can communication happen even one element goes missing? It cannot. Kasi noise, okay, cannot really go missing. Okay? Dawa, in a perfect world, there will always be something that will represent noise, an impediment or a barrier in the way which we take the message. Okay? Is that clear? I'll assume yes, ma'am. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Sige, wonderful. Now we close the chapter for the elements of communication and we proceed to the missing one. Itong medyo malaki. Context siya. By the way, this unit is a 2-week meeting. But I'm grabbing the opportunity since we are synchronous to try to explain a little the context. But if we're going too fast, you have 2 weeks until next week to process all the information that I'm giving you. Nevertheless, let me show you, okay, what the context of communication are. Can you see it yet?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. All right. The context of oral communication. Allow me to quote Thornberry kasi we are going to teach English as a second language. Sabi niya, so natural and integral is speaking. Yes po?
Blur po, ma'am, yung ano.
Bakit daw nagbe-blur kapag document? Word po ang pinapakita ko. Ba't kaya ganun? Okay, can I just read? Anyway, it's all uploaded in the VLP.
Ma'am, maybe you can try po yung pong mga
Alin?
documents to convert to PDF.
It's in PDF.
PDF ba rin po?
Opo. Sorry, I did not check. Prior. My bad. So, pag documents pala, talagang pangit ang labas. Okay, I'll try to fix this one on our next, po. Maybe I can just add it in my presentation. Para hindi masyadong pangit. Wala talaga kayong nababasa. As in,
Wala po.
Ma'am.
Wala po.
Nakakaloka ka, ma'am. Okay.
Yung malalaki lang, ma'am.
Yung malalaki
The
lang,
larger text.
nakakaloka.
Yes.
Yung malalaki yung napapansin ko.
Okay. Next time, I'll put everything in a PowerPoint presentation. Okay. May I proceed though? Kahit kahit blurry.
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Okay lang ba? Sige. Pasensya na. Listening skills muna tayo, hindi reading. Alright. Sabi na Thornberry, so natural and integral is speaking that we forget how we once struggled to achieve this ability. Okay? Until that is, we have to learn how to do it all over again in a foreign or second language. Naman gusto yung sabihin, since the moment we're able to talk, it became innate to us, part of our person, to keep on blabbing and blabbing. That sometimes we forget that the students that we are teaching are learning a second language. Ano po? So it will be difficult for them to orally communicate their thoughts using another language which they haven't mastered or which is not their native tongue. Okay? So I'd like you to understand that kasi it affects the context or the environment, okay, by which they communicate. I'm talking about now for your future students. Now, what's the context? Aside from it's an element of communication, it refers to the circumstance or the environment in which communication happens. Okay? This is what Lance said a while ago, and he's very correct kasi different contexts can impact one's communication. Different contexts have different barriers, thus making it imperative to pay attention to the interplay of factors that are physical, cultural, social, and psychological in nature. Mainit, physical or psychological. Mahiyain, social. Babae, hindi pwedeng magsalita sa iba, cultural. Okay? So, communication is affected by the context in which we speak. If you're seeing this or not, okay, I'll provide you the link. Andun siya, lahat naman provided yung references. We have 6 contexts of communication. Ano po? The first one is intrapersonal. Intra came from the Latin word intra, which means within or inside. So, mental answer na lang po. Did you talk to yourself before coming here? Okay? Do you have your self or inner talk, like inner monologue or inner dialogue with yourself? Do you pep talk yourself? Self-verbalization? Do you look at yourself in the mirror and then talk to yourself? If you do that, if your answer is yes, don't worry, you are not crazy. You are a normal human person using intrapersonal communication. The context is you're the sender and then you're the receiver. Okay, so I have a trick question. Can communication happen with one person only? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
wonderful.
ma'am.
So, yes, ma'am, it can. Okay, I talk to myself. I'm communicating with myself with all the other elements, the channel, the noise, the message itself. And communication happens within me or inside of me. Okay? One example is when I'm sad, I console myself. It's okay, Jam. Don't be sad. Okay? Blah, 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 blah. I don't need anyone to talk to. I talk to myself and I'm doing intrapersonal communication. Can you think of other ways wherein you are in this context? Other situations? Meron?
Yes, ma'am. When
Yes.
you sang a song.
When?
When you sang a song.
Yes, very good. When you sing a song, you're in the shower. Okay? Nobody is listening to you. Say, for example, you're alone. You sing a song to yourself. You're actually doing an intrapersonal communication with yourself by playing your favorite melody, singing your favorite melody. Okay? I think you get it. Can we proceed to the next? Yes, ma'am. Okay, I assume. Okay. The second context is, ito naman, interpersonal communication. From the Latin inter, which means between or among or together. So, you have the clue. It's the exact opposite of intra kasi it is an interactive exchange that may occur in dyads or small groups. It is meant to deepen one's relationship and maintain social relationships. Most interpersonal contexts of communication are informal. Ano po? Bakit informal? Kasi the purpose of interpersonal communication is to just get along with the other person. Okay? Ang example dito, greeting each other. Uy, tara, kumusta? Nagtaba ka. Okay, that's an interpersonal communication. It need not be that formal, but you need another person or a group of people to talk to for it to happen. Can anybody give me another example of interpersonal communication? Sino pa bang dito natatawag? Si Ace, natawag na kita? Hello? Ace? Okay, parang nag-snack si Ace. Okay, can you give another example of interpersonal communication? Irene? Miss Belen? Okay. Parang mahirap, ma'am. Sige, can anybody just give me?
I think in the daily basis communication.
Alin yun, Lance?
Basis communication.
I'm sorry, I did not quite get that. The?
Daily basis communication, ma'am.
Daily communication. Yes, okay. So, when we talk, okay, yung usual lang, normal conversations, those are examples of or context of interpersonal communication. Okay? Sige, that's correct. Let's proceed to the next. Transactional communication. Okay? This is interpersonal in nature also, but the difference is it is formal and profound. From the word transaction, The aim of this context is to accomplish or resolve something at the end of the conversation. Ano? It's not just to deepen relationship, to ask for greetings, daily convo. No, it's not about that. Transactional has an objective, just like what we are doing right now. This is not an interpersonal communication. Ano po? This is mainly a transactional communication. We have something to accomplish for this online meeting. Okay? So, hindi lang siya basta-basta. It's formal, it's profound, okay? There is an end goal at the end of the communication process. Can anybody think of another context of communication? Of an example for transactional communication? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Please. Okay. Sino yun? Wait lang. Nahihirapan akong humabol.
Sige
Sino
na
to?
po, sa tinsel na lang po, ma'am.
Sige po. Sige po. Example.
Say po, ma'am. Sa tinsel ako.
Oh, daw si Isay.
Ikaw.
Okay,
Ma'am,
let's
I
go.
guess, ma'am, in doing if a businessman is doing business deals like that, he's going to talk to a partner perhaps, and then they're going to
close a deal.
have this communication and then close a deal afterwards.
Very good example. Okay, so for business people, whenever they talk, they don't just deepen their relationships with their customers or their clients. They have an objective in mind. So their context is transactional communication. Rochelle, would you want to give another?
Online seller, ma'am.
Ayun! Okay, that is correct. Okay, pag matchat na si mga dati kong kaklase, I know it's they're in for a transactional. They try to start for interpersonal communication, but I always smell na ay transaction niyo. And I always welcome them kasi kailangan ngayon na pandemic. Okay, so I think we've understood the difference between interpersonal and transactional. For the fourth one, I hope you're following. I'm sorry if my visual is not good. Okay, the fourth one is extended communication. I'll just give you the meaning and then you give me an example. Extended communication involves the use of electronic media, where messages are transmitted quickly, either synchronously or asynchronously. Give me an example of an extended communication.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
The news.
Yes, sino bang nag-guess, ma'am? Mike?
Can-
Is that you, Mike? Hindi.
Yes po.
Sige, let's go, Mike.
Yes po. For me, ma'am, one of the examples for the extended or using of electronic media is the BPO or the business processing outsourcing company, wherein they are processing through the use of the electronic media.
Okay, wonderful answer, Mike. Our call center agents, okay, those who are working under BPO, they are using the context of extended communication. Jo, would you like to add something? Yes, Miss Olivan?
Example, ma'am, yung online teaching, ma'am. They use electronics devices to communicate with their students.
Okay, wonderful. Ano po? So, very good. Ito pong ginagawa natin, this is at the same time extended communication. Not only are we in for transaction, but we are using electronic media so that we could communicate. So communication can happen face-to-face electronically, or even not face-to-face asynchronously. So is it safe to say that we can have two or more contexts at work in just one communication process? Yes or yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So hindi po yung
Yes,
context,
ma'am.
one context at a time ha. Sometimes all six, okay? We could have the context of six, okay? Whenever we're doing a communication process, okay? So parang with the exemption of intra, kasi hindi ka pwedeng mag-inter. I can talk to myself while I'm talking to you. Okay, I think it's possible. Okay, let's finish this one. All right, the fifth one is organizational communication. Okay, so for organizational communication, this is a bit of a transactional okay, in nature also. But the focus of organization is on the role that communication plays in a given system of people. Meaning to say, in this context, highly formal ito kasi protocols are established and clarified to the organization, which is composed or comprised of individuals. Meaning to say, you cannot just finish a transaction with somebody. You have to undergo several steps, okay? Go through, okay, the individuals pass through before you go to the bosses. What am I saying? Ako po, as a faculty member, I have to coordinate first with my language cluster head, my unit head, before I can coordinate with our chairperson, before I can speak with the dean, or even before I can reach the campus administrator or the president. Meaning to say, yes, it's transactional, okay? But the focus is on the system, okay? The individual system that I have to undergo, okay? So, could you give me another example of organizational communication? Anyone?
Seminar, ma'am.
Seminar. Okay. Could you clarify that one?
Organizational seminar or assembly.
Yan. Okay. Yun na? Okay, thank you, Raz. Okay. So, you cannot just, poof, there's already an assembly. No. You have to undergo certain steps. You have to seek approval from certain people before you could actually have your assembly happen. Ano po? Hi, baby. Okay. So that is organizational communication. Okay. Yes po. Matatapos na po si Mama. Opo. Wait lang. Okay. Basta sa organizational transaction, but the focus is you have to undergo certain protocols. Okay? And the last one, we have the sixth, intercultural communication. So what does it mean? It happens between or among people having different linguistic, religious, ethnic, social, and professional backgrounds. Even gender affects communication as individuals having different orientations communicate and interpret messages differently. So, meaning to say, this context of communication takes into account our individual differences, either in the language that we're using. I'm talking to a Japanese, or I'm talking to a British okay, our religious affiliations, ethnic, okay, with all the dialects and the socialects, social, okay, iba man yung konyo, language, context of communication, iba naman sa atin, na mga, the masses, okay? And then, depending also on the professional backgrounds, the doctor cannot tell me I have epistaxis, okay? There will be certain jargons that will affect our communication. So, intercultural siya. Not necessarily different ethnicity alone, even gender, okay? There's a difference when we talk to an LGBTQ plus member, okay? And then the difference when we talk to a female or a, okay? Could you give me an example for intercultural communication, the context? Sino pa ba ang hindi ko dito natatawag? Yes po. Sino yung nag-ma'am? Sino yun?
Ace po, ma'am.
Yes, let's go Ace again.
For example, ma'am, sa Mumbai.
Mumbai, yes. What about the Mumbai?
Sometimes, ma'am, the Mumbai cannot actually speak Tagalog.
Yes.
But they trying their best to speak for us to communicate well.
Wonderful. Okay, for Arabs in the if I'm not mistaken. Okay, our Arabic friends. Okay, sometimes the heavy accent can affect, okay, the way we communicate with them. And then sometimes linguistic pa rin. Okay, so it's the ethnicity, but even the language, the linguistic background that we have, it also affects us. Ano po? So halimbawa naman sa akin, I have a different, what do you call this one? Wait lang, I'm sorry, I get lost. I have a different take when I talk to my Jehovah's Witness friends. Okay? When I talk to my Iglesia ni Cristo friends. Tapos iba rin yung context ko when I talk ngayon to my born again friends. Ano? So, yun, the intercultural communication is at play. Okay, whenever I am talking. Kasi we have different backgrounds, okay? We have different cultural, yun na nga, kaya intercultural, cultural orientation. Okay? So, there you have it. These are, again, the context of oral communication. Okay, that might affect your speaking, even your teaching of speaking. So, take into account the following: intrapersonal, interpersonal, transactional, extended, organizational, and intercultural. Okay, baby, mata mapundo na po. Wait lang po. Gutom na yata yan.
Intercultural yun, ma'am, yung last po.
Opo, intercultural po. Okay. Yes, Jo, I'll be giving a copy. Don't worry. It will all be uploaded in the VLP. You can study. Gutom na yata yung anak ko. Sino yan?
Gladys po yan, ma'am.
Si Gladys. May Gladys talaga akong estudyante. Hi, Gladys. Okay.
Gutom na daw yung baby.
Mukhang gutom na siya. Don't worry, we're close to an end. Okay. So, check ko lang if I can show you the VLP kasi I still can't enroll you. The system is down. It's been down since yesterday. So, I want to show you what to expect when you enter the VLP, but apparently, okay, parang may kulang. Wala. Sige lang siyang loading. I think it's the system, not really the internet connection. Kasi kung internet, we'll be having a problem. Okay, so let's do a summary. Ano po? In this unit, you've learned about the very nature of communication. Okay? You've also gone through once more the macro skills of language, one of which is speaking. And then we've talked about the different elements of communication plus the context by which we communicate. Now, what are you going to do with all this? Okay? This will serve as your foundation. Babalik-balikan po ninyo siya whenever you think of a strategy or an approach to teach your future students. You cannot just proceed to teach or use this strategy just because you want it. Okay? Just because it works for you. You have to consider, number one, okay, yung elements. Are all the elements present? Kasi if one goes missing, halimbawa yung packaging mo, the channel that you've used, if one goes missing, it will be impossible for your students to learn to speak. Okay? Halimbawa naman sa context, okay? Your students have individual differences, so you have to put that into consideration. Ang guton ka, tapirming matagas ang letter E niya. Malay mo, Cebuana siya. Okay? Her linguistic background is different. You have to consider that and then adjust your approach, your method of teaching is speaking accordingly. Okay? The method is not for you. Okay? When you teach speaking, it's not for you, future teachers. The methods which you will gain later on are for your students. Your job is to choose the best one because you have already an idea of the nature of speaking. Is that clear, future English teachers?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so before we end, kasi parang hanggang 9:45 lang ako, before we end, I'm going to ask at least two of you to give your takeaways for this morning session. Sino po yung di ko pa naririnig? Narinig ko na. Uy, si Rinyono, Marie Chris. Marie Chris, you there? Miss Rinyono? Hindi pwede. Sige, walang mic. Si ano na lang. Sino pa po ang hindi ko pa nako? Wala. Si Claire. Claire, are you there? Miss Banyares? Wala rin. Sige. Kahit isa lang. Yung hindi pa po nagsasalita. Sino pang mga nandito? Avila. Kim. Hi,
Yes,
Kim.
ma'am.
Let's go,
Good
Kim.
morning.
Okay, what's your takeaway, Kim?
I will summarize all the all the topics, ma'am, that we discussed today.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
First, we discussed the five macro skills, which is the first is listening, and the second is viewing, third, speaking, fourth, reading, and the last one is writing.
Okay.
And we discussed also the receptive and productive skills, which is receptive, receive or decode language, and in productive, we produce a language. And we discussed also the 7 elements of communication. The first one is context or the environment. Second, channel or the medium. The third is the message, and the fourth is the sender. Fifth, receiver. Sixth is the barrier or the noise, and the last one is the feedback. And we also discussed the 6 contexts of communication. Number 1 is intrapersonal. Intrapersonal, it is within or entire, or for example, we are talking to ourselves and we are also the sender and the receiver. The second is interpersonal. Interpersonal, it is between or among or together, or we're just talking to our friends, and we are socializing. And the third is transactional communication. It is a formal communication. The purpose of this is to accomplish or resolve something at the end of the conversation, just like what we are doing right now. And the fourth is extended communication. Extended communication is the use of electronic media. And the fifth is the organizational communication, which is highly formal. We I it it ano, our protocols are established. The example of this is seminar, and the last one is intercultural communication. It happens between or among people. It talks about having different linguistic, religion, ethnics, or social and profession.
Professional.
That's all.
So, okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Kim. Okay, do we have any questions from the group?
Ma'am.
Clarifications? Okay. Wala? Sige. If none, may I ask Norily to close us into prayer na? Okay, let's close with a prayer before we will be cut Zoom. Okay, Norily, where are you, dear?
Ma'am.
Okay, let's go. Let's pray.
In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, thank you for this day, the information we gathered. Although the internet connection is not really good, but our conversation and Google Zoom or meeting is okay. So far, so God, um, we're thankful for this day, a good weather, and also the good information. And so far it is very um, information you to the information we gathered jam is very good. And ma'am, sorry I interrupted, but thank you, Lord, for this day. Amen.
Amen. The Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all so much for attending. We're 25
In the name
all
of the
in
Father,
all.
the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Sorry po. I'm so sorry. So sorry. Pero taram na ako. Again, thank you for attending po, all of you. So some quick announcements. Yes, we've finished the topics for the next 2 weeks, but no, you are going to accomplish some activities. I told you there will be TPRs, total physical response activities, that you're going to do. If I still can't add you at the end of this day, I'm going to upload your activities in our messenger. Kasi you have to start na. Kasi you only have 2 weeks. Ano po? Don't worry, it's all just applications of what we've learned so far for this session. We've covered a lot. Ano po? We've covered a lot. And then, you are just going to do certain activities by group and then individually. There will be instructions. If you have any queries regarding said instructions, you can always chat me up in the messenger. I've been trying to connect to the VLP. It's still down at this moment. I hope you understand. Please don't get tired of waiting and be considerate also. Ano po, we're doing our best. So, sana po wala nang problema on our next synchronous session. Okay? So, do you have other subject-related concerns? Meron ho ba? Meron ho?
None so far.
Okay. Wala naman na? Okay. While I still have, anytime pwede pong makatiyata ito. Okay. But while I still have time, okay, ito po yung for the rest of the participants right now sa ating lahat. I'm gonna ask you, lahat ba may FB account? Lahat
I guess so po.
Facebook? I guess lahat kasi nakikita kayo sa messenger. Okay. First, kasi I want to diagnose your oral competence. Speaking skills. So, I need you to upload on your Facebook account a public 2-minute video. 2 to 3 minutes. Sagad na ang 3 minutes ha. Pero 2-minute video lang of yourself, okay? Introducing yourself and then choosing, okay, among the 5 macro skills. Okay, 5 macro skills yung diniscuss natin. Okay, which one do you think should be taught first? Okay, iba kanina, yung learned kanina. Ano po, alin yung nanunudan tang inot? But as future teachers, I'd like you to give a video presentation, oral siya of course, of the macro skill that you think should be taught first. Okay? Just because it's learned first doesn't mean it should be taught first. Or if you agree with that one, then do it. Okay? Ma'am, what if ma'am lahat? O, di bahala ka, lahatin mo. But make sure in your oral, in your video, you have provided your reason for that. Ano po? Use this hashtag so that I could search it properly. Okay? I could search it properly on Facebook. I encoded it in the chat box. It's called Skill That Slays. Okay? So in your public, paki-public po ha, we're not friends on FB. Make it public, okay? And use the hashtag Skill That Slays. Okay? It's a video of yourself, okay? Introducing yourself and telling us, okay, which skill or skills should be taught first. This is individual. Kasi I want to check, okay, your oral communication skills. Ano po? Dun po sa mga medyo mahihina ang signal, it's okay, I will not close the submission. Ano po, basta hanggat meron ng signal, you do it already so that mabawasan po yung gagawin. The rest po will be by group na. I'll be assigning you to groups. Kinukuha ko po yung details nyo, sino yung malakas ang signal, sino yung may mga devices, sino yung wala. I'm trying to group you, and your group will be your final groupings for the rest of the semester. Okay? So I'm trying to partner or pair you up, group you rather, according to your needs, your strengths and your weaknesses also, especially when it comes to connectivity. But for now, wala pang kagrupo ang kailangan, is Skill That Slays. Okay? I-search ko po siya. I'll be starting my search siguro next week, Tuesday. Baka may naka-upload naman na yan. Make it public kasi po I'm trying to assess, okay, your oral communication. Okay? Yun muna yung announcement sa ngayon. Let me check the VLP. Ay, salamat. Wait. Before I dismiss you, please connect. I want to show you the VLP kasi di ko pa kayo ma-enroll. Please connect. Wait lang. Those who want to leave already, kasi ma'am, ang data ko, kaipuan ko pa at siyan, you may do so na, kasi we're done with the session. But for those who can stay, kindly stay. Kasi, wait, bulati man yan. Continue. Medyo marami-rami na po yung naandun sa VLP. Wait a minute. Bulati man yan. Okay. You can go now for those nagtitipid. Baka may paggagamitan pa po. Anong nahihiling nindo? Wait. What do you see?
Yung presentation mo po kanina.
Right now, what do you see?
This site can't
This site can't be reached.
I told you the system is down. Kanina nakalagin ako. Ay, nako, wala. I-print screen ko na lang. Tapos isend ko sa messenger. Mahina talaga yun. I'm sorry. Kanina. Okay, sige, never mind. Baka may paggagamitan pa kayong ibang subjects. Okay, may request everyone to please open your cameras. If it's okay for you. Okay? Pa-open po. At tayo ay mag-picture. Siyempre, si ma'am exempted. Okay, wear your best smile. Yung willing lang. Okay, yung willing lang. Okay, best smile. 1, 2, 3. Charing! Okay, one more. Wait lang ha. Okay, one more please. 1. Where are we now? Wait, no, wala ako. 1, 2, smile! Actually, attendance niya to. Okay. Thank you very much for being here this morning. See you once again on our next synchronous session. That will be on the 6th week. Okay? Just mark your calendar. And then, visit the VLP. I'll enroll you as soon as the system allows me to. Okay? Happy e-learning. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you for this day.
Thank you also.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye.
Tara na sa kantin.
God bless.